I stared at my phone screen through a film of angry tears, my thumb hovering over the keyboard as I retyped the message for the 4th time. The words kept getting meaner. Good. You're a lying thief. I hope she was worth our entire savings account. We're done. Don't ever come near me again or I'll scream. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hit the right letters. 2 years. 2 years of double shifts at the ER. Of skipping lunch breaks to save money for our future. Of believing Greg when he said he was working late. The future he'd gambled away. With my neighbor. Send it, my coworker Bryn said from my kitchen, holding up my empty wine glass like evidence. Jesse, you've been staring at that screen for 20 minutes. Send it and block him. He doesn't deserve your mercy. She was right. I pressed send before my people-pleasing instincts could kick in, then dropped my phone on the coffee table like it was contaminated. There. Done. I never have to see his stupid face, or hear his stupid excuses about bad luck streaks ever again. I pulled my yellow knitted sweater tighter around myself. My comfort sweater, the one I wore on my worst days in the ER. Today qualified. Good for you. Bryn poured more wine into my glass. You're better off alone than with a man who wait. She picked up my phone, squinting at the screen. Jesse, look at this. What? I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. Did he already reply with some pathetic excuse? No, you sent it to the wrong number. She turned the phone toward me, and my stomach dropped through the floor. The number was 1 digit off. 1 single, stupid digit, and someone had already responded. Screaming sounds fun, but I prefer it when you're breathless. He's a boy. Come to me, and I'll show you what a man does. Oh my God. I grabbed the phone, my heart hammering. Oh my God. I sent my breakup text to a complete stranger. A complete stranger who's apparently very confident. Bryn leaned over my shoulder reading. That's either really smooth or really creepy. I can't tell which. I stared at the message. The words felt dangerous. Heavy. Nothing like the kind of response you'd expect from someone who'd accidentally received a misdirected text. My fingers trembled as I started typing an apology. Then 3 dots appeared. He was typing again. My phone buzzed. I know who took your money. I know where you live. And I know he's not worth your tears. Answer the door in 3 minutes. The blood drained from my face. Bryn, I whispered. How would he know where? A knock echoed through my apartment. Sharp, deliberate. Not Greg's guilty, rapid-fire tapping. Bryn's eyes went wide. Don't answer that. But my feet were already moving. Something in that message, the certainty, the command made disobeying feel impossible. I looked through the peephole. My breath caught. A man stood in my hallway, tall, broad-shouldered. Dark hair slicked back, revealing a face that could have been carved from stone. But it was his neck that made my pulse spike. Intricate black tattoos crawling up from beneath an unbuttoned white shirt, disappearing into his collar. Behind him stood 2 bald men in dark suits, arms crossed, blocking the entire hallway. This wasn't a neighbor. This wasn't someone who'd reply with a joke and move on. This was danger. The man's dark eyes locked onto the peephole as if he could see straight through to me. He raised his phone to his ear. Mine buzzed in my hand. Open the door, Jesse. He knew my name. Welcome back to the channel, story lovers. Before we see how Alonso handles this situation, I need you to comment down below where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this dark romance. My hand was on the doorknob before my brain could catch up. Jesse, don't, Bryn hissed behind me. I opened the door. He was even more overwhelming in person. Taller than I'd expected. The tattoos on his neck were detailed, deliberate symbols and patterns that looked less like art and more like warnings. His white shirt hung open just enough to reveal more ink across his chest, and the way he stood radiated control. Absolute control. This was a man who didn't ask for anything. He took it. You texted. His voice was low, smooth, accented. I answered. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. One of the bald bodyguards shifted, and I caught the unmistakable outline of a gun holster beneath his suit jacket. Who? I swallowed hard. Who are you? Alonso Robles. He said it like I should know the name. Like everyone should. His gaze dragged over me slowly, assessing. And you're the woman who just declared war on a thief. I didn't declare anything. I sent a text to the wrong number, right message. He stepped closer, and I instinctively stepped back. He didn't follow. Just stood there in my doorway, filling the entire frame. Your ex-boyfriend is Greg Hastings. He owes money to very dangerous people. Money he stole from you to cover his debts, and now he's planning to use you as collateral. The world tilted. What? He's not coming to apologize, Jesse. He's coming to sell you. That's insane. Greg's a coward. But he wouldn't. Alonso's phone lit up. He turned the screen toward me. It was a grainy surveillance photo. Greg, standing outside my apartment building, talking to two men I didn't recognize. One of them was holding up a photo. Of me. My knees went weak. You have two choices, Alonso said, his tone almost bored. You stay here and wait for him to arrive with his new friends. Or you leave with me, and I make sure no one ever touches you again. I don't even know you. No, but I know you. His eyes softened, just barely. You work 60-hour weeks at Street Catherine's ER. You take the overnight shifts no one else wants. You eat vending machine dinners and fall asleep in your scrubs. And you save everyone except yourself. I felt exposed, seen in a way that made my skin prickle. How do you... I make it my business to know things. He glanced past me into my apartment, then back to my face. Decide quickly. They're 2 blocks away. Bryn grabbed my arm. Jesse, this is crazy. Call the police. But even as she said it, I saw movement through the hallway window. A car pulling up. Greg's car. Alonso saw it too. He didn't move, just waited. I looked at him. At the tattoos. At the bodyguards. At the gun I could now clearly see on his hip. Then I looked at Greg's car. I grabbed my purse. Let's go. Alonso's mouth curved into the barest hint of a smile. Smart girl. He stepped aside, and I walked past him into the hallway. The bodyguards moved instantly, flanking me on both sides. Alonso placed a hand on the small of my back firm. Possessive, scorching through the thin fabric of my sweater. Don't look back, he murmured near my ear. But I did. Greg was at the building entrance, arguing with someone on his phone. He looked up. Our eyes met through the glass. His face went white. Then Alonso guided me around the corner, and Greg disappeared from view. Alonso showed up because he despises thieves and liars. If you believe cheaters deserve instant karma, hit that subscribe button right now. Only the manipulators and players will ignore this. Chapter 2. The Abduction. The elevator descended in silence. I was pressed between Alonso's bodyguards, their shoulders forming a wall of muscle on either side of me. Alonso stood directly in front of me, his back to the doors, watching me with that unsettling intensity that made me feel like he could read every thought racing through my mind. I need to call the police, I said, my voice shakier than I wanted it to be. No, you don't. Alonso's tone was matter of fact, not cruel. The police will take a statement, file a report, and send you home. Greg will be waiting for you. His associates will be less patient than I am. You can't just... I don't even know you. You show up at my door with guns and tattoos and expect me to just... Trust me? He tilted his head slightly. No, I expect you to be smart. You already made the right choice. Don't second-guess it now. The elevator jolted to a stop. Ground floor. My last chance to run. The doors opened, and I saw Greg immediately. He was in the lobby, pacing near the entrance, phone pressed to his ear. Still wearing the same wrinkled button-down he'd had on this morning when I'd confronted him about the empty bank account. When he'd sworn he could explain. When he'd promised he'd fix everything. He looked up. Our eyes met across the lobby. His face drained of color. Then his gaze shifted to Alonso, and something else flickered there. Recognition. Fear. Keep walking, Alonso murmured behind me, his hand returning to the small of my back. The touch was warm, grounding, and somehow more terrifying than the guns. I couldn't move. My feet had rooted to the floor just outside the elevator. Greg ended his call and started toward us, but one of Alonso's bodyguards stepped forward, and Greg froze mid-stride. The bodyguard didn't say anything, didn't even gesture, just stood there, and it was enough. Jesse... Greg's voice cracked. Jesse, wait. I can explain. Just give me 5 minutes, please. She gave you 2 years, Alonso said, his voice cutting through the lobby like a blade. You used them poorly. This doesn't concern you. Greg's hands were shaking. He tried to sound tough, but I could hear the tremor underneath. Jesse, who is this guy? Did you call someone? I didn't call anyone, I whispered. Then who? Greg's eyes widened as recognition fully clicked into place. Oh God, you're... Yes. Alonso's smile was cold. And you've been a very busy man, haven't you, Greg? Borrowing from people you shouldn't, Making promises you can't keep. Using her name as collateral. I didn't, I would never. You already did. Alonso pulled out his phone and swiped through something before turning the screen toward Greg. This is you, 3 hours ago, outside a pawn shop on 5th Street. You're showing Miguel Santos a photograph of Jessie and telling him she's good for $20,000 because she's a nurse with a clean record and family in the suburbs. Easy target, easy leverage. My stomach turned. Greg, what is he talking about? Greg's face had gone from pale to gray. Jess, I was desperate. I didn't think I wasn't actually going to. You were absolutely going to, Alonso interrupted. Santos already accepted your offer. He's sending 2 men to pick her up tonight, except I got to her first. He stepped closer to Greg, and even though Greg was taller, he seemed to shrink. Do you know what Santos does to women who are used as collateral? Greg couldn't answer. He looked like he might be sick. He doesn't kill them, Alonso continued, his voice soft, almost conversational. That would be wasteful. He ships them south. They work until the debt is paid. Sometimes that takes years. Sometimes they never make it home. I couldn't breathe. The lobby was spinning. This couldn't be real. Greg was a coward and a cheat and a gambling addict, but he couldn't. Jessie, I swear I didn't know. You knew. Alonso's words were final. You just didn't care. Please. Greg's voice broke. Please, I'll fix this. I'll tell Santos it's off. Too late. Alonso pocketed his phone. Santos doesn't take returns. The only reason Jessie isn't in the back of a van right now is because I have a reputation for being unreasonable when people touch what's mine. She's not yours, Greg said, but there was no conviction in it. Alonso looked at me. Isn't she? I should have said no. Should have told him to back off, that I wasn't anyone's property, that I could handle this myself. But the words wouldn't come, because the truth was, I couldn't handle this. I didn't even know what this was. Jessie, please. Greg took a step forward. The bodyguard moved to block him, but Alonso raised a hand. Let him speak, Alonso said. She should hear what he has to say. Greg's eyes were red-rimmed, desperate. I messed up. I know I did. But we can fix this together. You and me, like we always do. Just don't go with him, please. You don't know what he is. And you do? I heard myself ask. Greg swallowed hard. Everyone knows who Alonso Robles is. He runs things, bad things, dangerous things. If you leave with him, you won't come back. If she stays here, Alonso countered, she won't survive the night. I looked between them. Greg, with his pleading eyes and shaking hands in 2 years of broken promises. Alonso, with his cold certainty and terrifying calm and the weight of violence hanging around him like cologne. Neither option was safe. But only one of them had sold me to criminals to cover his debts. I'm leaving, I said quietly. Jessie, you gave them my name. My voice was stronger now, anger cutting through the fear. You showed them my picture. You told them where I lived. I didn't think they'd actually... You didn't think. I stepped closer to him, and for once Greg was the one backing away. You never think. You gambled away our savings. You cheated on me with Vanessa from 3B, and when that wasn't enough, you sold me like I was some kind of... My voice cracked. I couldn't finish the sentence. Alonso's hand touched my elbow, gentle but firm. We need to go. I nodded. Didn't look back at Greg. Didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Outside, a black SUV waited at the curb, engine running. One of the bodyguards opened the back door. I hesitated for just a second. One final moment where I could still run, still call for help, still choose the life I knew over the danger I didn't. Then I thought about Greg's face in that photograph. The way he'd looked at me this morning when I'd asked about the missing money, the casual cruelty of his lies. I got in the car. Alonso slid in beside me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than my rent. The door closed. The locks clicked. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. He turned to look at me, and in the dim interior of the car, his eyes were almost black. You're asking the wrong questions, Jessie. What's the right question? Whether you're going to run the first chance you get. He studied my face. Are you? I should have said yes. Should have been planning my escape right now. But instead I heard myself ask, are you going to let me? His smile was slow, dangerous. No. The car pulled away from the curb. Through the tinted window, I saw Greg standing on the sidewalk, phone back to his ear, watching us disappear into the night. I didn't feel relief. Didn't feel fear. I felt like I'd just stepped off a cliff, and I was still waiting to find out if I'd land or fall. The penthouse was on the 43rd floor of a building I'd driven past 100 times but never thought anyone actually lived in. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, lights sprawling out like scattered diamonds. The interior was all clean lines and dark wood, leather furniture that probably cost more than my car, and art on the walls that looked like it belonged in a museum. It didn't look like a place where people lived. It looked like a fortress designed to remind you exactly who owned it. One of the bodyguards swept through first, checking rooms I couldn't see. The other stayed by the elevator, arms crossed. Alonso gestured for me to enter, and I stepped inside on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. "This is where you live?" My voice sounded too loud in the quiet space. "One of the places." He removed his jacket, draping it over the back of a chair. The movement made his shirt pull tighter across his shoulders, revealing more of the tattoos that disappeared beneath the fabric. "Make yourself comfortable." Comfortable. Right. I was standing in a stranger's penthouse after being told I was almost sold to human traffickers. Comfort wasn't exactly on the menu. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly aware of how out of place I looked in my yellow sweater and jeans. Everything here was sharp and expensive and controlled. I was soft edges and wrinkled comfort clothes and tear-stained cheeks. "I should call someone," I said. "My mom, Bryn, they'll be worried." "Your phone is compromised." Alonso pulled out my phone when had he taken it from me and set it on the counter. "Greg knows the number, so do his associates. So does Santos. Then I'll use yours." "No." He picked up a sleek black phone from the counter, brand new, still in its box. "You'll use this one. New number. Encrypted. Untraceable." He handed it to me. It was cold and heavier than my old phone, the screen pristine. "I can't just change my number. I have work, patience. My shift starts at 6 tomorrow. You're not going to work tomorrow." The words hung in the air between us. "Excuse me, it's not safe." He moved to the kitchen, opening a cabinet that revealed a full bar. "Santos has your schedule. He knows where you work, when you work, what route you take home. Until I've handled the situation, you're staying here. You can't just decide that." He poured 2 glasses of something amber and expensive looking, then slid one across the marble counter toward me. "I just did. I didn't touch the glass. I have a life. Responsibilities. I can't just disappear because you think. You already disappeared." His tone was calm, factual. "Greg saw you leave with me. By now he's told Santos that you're under my protection. Santos won't touch you. He's not stupid enough to start a war over $20,000, but he'll wait. Watch. The moment you step outside this building alone, you become fair game again." My stomach twisted. "So what am I supposed to do? Hide here forever?" "Not forever. Just until I've made it clear that touching you means death." He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. 3 days, maybe 4. 3 days. I laughed, but it came out choked. "You're insane. I can't just. I have bills, rent, my apartment is being watched." He took a sip of his drink. "I have people there now, collecting your things. They'll bring anything you need." "You sent people to my apartment?" My voice was rising. "Without asking me? Would you have said yes?" "That's not the point." "That's exactly the point." He set down his glass. "You're thinking like someone who still has choices. You don't. Not anymore. Greg made sure of that when he put your name on Santos's radar." I wanted to scream. Wanted to throw something. Wanted to run out that door and take my chances on the street. But I couldn't move, because he was right. Greg had sold me, and now I was standing in a gilded cage pretending it was rescue. "I didn't ask for this," I whispered. "No one asks for this." Something shifted in his expression, almost too quick to catch. "But here you are." The bodyguard who'd been checking the rooms returned and spoke quietly to Alonso in Spanish. I caught a few words: secure, clear, something about the south exit, but most of it was too fast for my rusty high school Spanish to follow. Alonso nodded, then turned back to me. "Carlos will show you to your room. There are clothes in the closet. Bathroom is stocked. If you need anything, ask. I need to leave." "No, you don't." He picked up his glass again. "You need to sleep, eat, process. Tomorrow we'll talk about next steps. I'm not your prisoner." "No." He met my eyes. "You're my guest." The way he said guest made it clear exactly what kind of guest I was. The kind who didn't get to leave. Carlos, the bodyguard, gestured toward a hallway. I didn't move. What happens if I try to walk out that door right now? I asked. Alonso tilted his head, considering. Carlos stops you, gently but firmly. And if I scream, break a window, call for help? We're 43 floors up. The windows are bulletproof. And no one will come. He said it without malice, just simple truth. You're welcome to try, if it makes you feel better, but you'll exhaust yourself for nothing. I hated him. Hated the calm certainty in his voice. Hated that he was right. I followed Carlos down the hallway. The bedroom was bigger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed with sheets that looked like they cost more than my monthly rent. Another wall of windows overlooking the city. A door leading to a bathroom that had both a soaking tub and a rainfall shower. And a walk-in closet full of clothes. I stared at the racks of dresses, blouses, pants all in my size, all with the tags still on. Designer labels I recognized from magazines but would never buy. Everything was elegant, expensive, and nothing like the comfortable, practical clothes I actually wore. My yellow sweater suddenly felt even more threadbare. How did he... I turned, but Carlos was already gone. The door closed behind him. I pulled out my new phone. The screen lit up at my touch. Already set up, already loaded with a handful of contacts. Mom, Bryn, Street Catherine's ER, and one labeled simply, Alonso. I tried the door handle. It turned. At least I wasn't literally locked in. I stepped back into the hallway. The penthouse was quiet except for low voices coming from the living room, Alonso and his men, speaking in rapid Spanish. I crept closer, staying in the shadows. 2 days, maybe 3 before Santos makes a move. The shipment from Tijuana is clean. Greg Hastings is already asking around, trying to find someone else to cover his debt. I backed away before they could hear me. Back to the bedroom. Back to the closet full of clothes that weren't mine and the bed I didn't choose and the cage that was 43 floors from freedom. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the yellow sweater in my lap. 3 days, Alonso had said. Maybe 4. 3 days of being protected, controlled, kept. 3 days of being his. I pulled out the new phone and typed a message to Bryn. I'm safe. Can't explain. Don't worry. Then I deleted it. She'd worry anyway. And maybe she should. I lay back on the expensive sheets, still wearing my jeans and my yellow sweater, and stared at the ceiling until the city lights blurred and I couldn't tell if I was crying or just too tired to keep my eyes open. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover and the smell of coffee. For one blissful second, I thought I was home. Then I saw the designer closet and the city sprawling 43 floors below, and reality came crashing back. I was still wearing yesterday's clothes. My yellow sweater was twisted around my torso, and my mouth tasted like I'd been chewing on cotton. I sat up slowly, my body stiff from sleeping in jeans. The bedroom door was cracked open. I could hear voices in the living room, Alonso's low and steady, and someone else responding in clipped Spanish. I needed answers. Needed to understand what I'd actually walked into last night. I found Alonso at the dining table, dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, looking like he'd already been awake for hours. A laptop was open in front of him, and Carlos stood nearby, holding a tablet. They both looked up when I entered. Coffee? Alonso gestured to a French press on the table, still steaming. I want to know what's happening. My voice came out rougher than I expected. You said Greg owed money. To who? How much? And why does it involve me? Alonso studied me for a moment, then nodded to Carlos, who disappeared down the hallway. When we were alone, Alonso closed his laptop and poured coffee into 2 cups. Sit. I don't want... Sit, Jesse. Not a request. You asked for answers. I'm going to give them to you, but you're going to want to be sitting down. I sat. He pushed the coffee toward me, then leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. Greg owes $73,000 to a man named Miguel Santos. Santos runs the Los Muertos cartel. They handle most of the drug trafficking through the southern corridor. Heroin, cocaine, fentanyl. They also run guns, women, and whatever else turns a profit. My stomach turned. 73,000? Greg told me he lost maybe 10, 15 tops. He lied. Alonso said it simply. He's been lying for months. Started with sports betting. Graduated to high-stakes poker games in Santos's basement. Every time he lost, Santos would front him more credit. Said they were friends. Said Greg was good for it. But he wasn't. No one who walks into Santos's poker room is good for it. That's the point. Alonso took a sip of coffee. The games are rigged. The odds are fixed. Santos lets people win just enough to keep them coming back, then bleeds them dry. By the time they realize they're in over their heads, they owe more than they could pay in 10 lifetimes. I thought about the empty bank account, the late nights Greg claimed were work dinners, the way he'd started drinking more, sleeping less, snapping at me over nothing. He could have told me, I whispered. I would have helped him figure something out. Would you? Alonso's eyes were sharp. Or would you have left him the moment you found out he'd gambled away your future? I didn't answer. Because he was right. 2 weeks ago, Santos gave Greg an ultimatum. Alonso continued. Pay what he owes, or provide collateral. Greg panicked. He emptied your account, pawned everything he could, even sold his car, still came up 40,000 short. So he offered me. You were worth more than 40,000 to Santos. Alonso's jaw tightened. Clean record, stable job, family who'd pay ransom. You were the best collateral Greg had. So Santos accepted. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. Why do you care? You don't know me. Why would you risk anything for someone you've never met? Because Santos is my problem. Alonso stood, walking to the windows. His back was to me, silhouetted against the morning light. Los Muertos operates in my city. They pay me a percentage of their profits in exchange for protection and territory. It's business. Then why? Because Santos didn't tell me he was taking you. He turned, and there was something dangerous in his expression. He knew your name. He knew you were a nurse. But he didn't know you'd sent that text to my phone. Didn't know that the moment I saw your message, I'd make you my concern. One text. You tracked me down because of one text? I tracked you down because I was curious. He moved closer, each step deliberate. Then I looked into who you were, who Greg was, what Santos was planning, and I realized Santos had made a mistake. What mistake? Taking what's mine without asking permission. The words hung between us, heavy and possessive. I'm not yours, I said, but my voice shook. Tell Santos that. Alonso pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. It was a text message, in Spanish, but he translated, Robles has the Garretson woman. Deal is off. Find another way to pay your debt. Greg sent this? Santos sent this. To his entire network. 37 different people now know that you're under my protection. He pocketed the phone, which means Los Muertos has been publicly humiliated. They accepted collateral, made plans to collect, and I took you first. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. You started a war. I prevented one. He sat down across from me again. If I'd let Santos take you, I would have looked weak, like I couldn't protect what's mine. Every two-bit dealer and gang leader in the city would have seen that as an invitation to test my boundaries. So I took you first. Made it clear that anyone who touches you answers to me. You're insane. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You didn't save me. You just painted a bigger target on my back. The target was already there. His voice was calm, infuriatingly calm. Greg put it there when he used your name. All I did was make sure no one's stupid enough to pull the trigger. What about Greg? What happens to him? That depends on Santos. Alonso stood as well. Santos still wants his money. Greg still can't pay. Unless Greg finds another way to clear his debt, Santos will find another way to collect. You mean kill him? I mean whatever Santos decides is equivalent to $73,000 plus interest. He moved toward me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Do you care? After everything he did? I wanted to say no. Wanted to feel nothing but rage for the man who'd tried to sell me like furniture. But 2 years didn't disappear overnight. And some part of me, the part that still wore the yellow sweater, couldn't help but feel something. He's a coward and a liar, I said quietly. But I don't want him dead. Then pray Santos is feeling merciful. Alonso's hand came up, his fingers catching a strand of my hair that had fallen across my face. He tucked it behind my ear, the gesture almost tender. But understand something, Jesse. Los Muertos doesn't forget. They'll wait for their moment. And the only thing keeping you alive right now is the fact that killing you would mean going through me. Why? I searched his face. Why would you do that for a stranger? His thumb traced along my jaw, and I hated how my breath caught. Because you're not a stranger anymore, he said. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. Before I could respond, Carlos appeared in the doorway, his expression urgent. Señor, Santos quiere reunirse. Alonso's hand dropped from my face. Cuando? Esta noche. Neutral ground. Alonso's jaw tightened. He looked at me, then back at Carlos. Tell him yes. Carlos nodded and disappeared again. What did he say? I asked. Santos wants a meeting. Alonso was already moving, pulling out his phone, his entire demeanor shifting into something harder, more controlled. Tonight. He wants to negotiate terms. Terms for what? He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw something that might have been worry, for whether this ends in business or blood. 2 days passed in the penthouse like time didn't exist. Alonso was gone most of both days. Returning late with tension in his shoulders and blood on his knuckles, he didn't bother to explain. Carlos and the other bodyguards rotated shifts, always watching, always present. I tried to settle into the routine: coffee in the morning, meals I didn't cook appearing at regular intervals, designer clothes I didn't choose hanging in the closet, but I felt like I was suffocating in silk. On the third morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I need to go to the clinic, I told Alonso over breakfast. He didn't look up from his phone. No, I have patients, people who depend on me. I can't just abandon. You can. You will. He set down his phone. Santos hasn't responded to my terms yet. Until he does, you stay here. I'm losing my mind. I stood up, my hands flat on the table. I need to do something. Be useful. Feel like a person instead of what? A possession. His eyes darkened. You are many things, Jesse, but you're not a possession. You're a responsibility, and I take my responsibilities seriously. Then let me go to the free clinic on Ash Street, just for a few hours. I volunteer there on Wednesdays. It's low-income families, kids who need vaccinations, people who can't afford. I know what a free clinic is. Then you know they need help. Please. I hated the desperation in my voice. Carlos can come with me. Hell, bring the entire security team. But I need to do this. I need to remember who I am. He studied me for a long moment, then pulled out his phone and sent a text. Within seconds, Carlos appeared. Take her to the clinic on Ash Street, Alonso said. Don't let her out of your sight. Any sign of trouble, you bring her back immediately. Carlos nodded. I grabbed my bag, one of the expensive leather ones that had appeared in the closet, and followed Carlos to the elevator before Alonso could change his mind. The clinic was exactly how I remembered it. Cramped, understaffed, and desperately needed. The waiting room was full of mothers with crying babies, elderly men with persistent coughs, teenagers who'd rather be anywhere else. The moment I walked in, Maria, the receptionist who'd been there longer than anyone, looked up and nearly cried. Jesse, Dios mío, we thought you quit. No one could reach you. I'm sorry. Family emergency. But I'm here now. I glanced back at Carlos, who'd positioned himself by the door like a statue. I can stay for a few hours. A few hours is better than nothing. Room 3 needs vitals, room 5 needs a tetanus booster, and we have 6 walk-ins waiting. Maria handed me a clipboard. You're a saint. I wasn't a saint. I was just desperate for normalcy. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of blood pressure cuffs, and thermometer readings, and children who screamed at the sight of needles. It felt like breathing again, like I was more than just a problem someone had to solve. I was finishing up with an elderly woman who needed her prescriptions refilled when Carlos appeared in the doorway, his expression sharp. We need to leave. I'm almost done. Now. Something in his tone made me move. I said a quick goodbye to my patient, and followed Carlos through the waiting room. He had his hand on my elbow, steering me toward the exit, when I saw him. Greg. He was standing outside, leaning against a rusted sedan that definitely wasn't his. He looked worse than the last time I'd seen him unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. When he saw me, he straightened. Jesse, thank God. I need to talk to you. Carlos stepped between us. No. 5 minutes. Greg's voice cracked. Please, just 5 minutes. Keep walking, Carlos murmured to me, but I stopped. Because as much as I hated Greg, as much as I wanted to never see him again, part of me needed to hear what he had to say. Needed to understand how he could have done this. It's fine, I told Carlos. 5 minutes. Carlos's jaw tightened, but he stepped aside. Didn't leave, though. Just stood close enough to intervene if Greg so much as breathed wrong. Jess. Greg moved closer, and I could smell the desperation on him, stale cigarettes and cheap cologne and fear. I've been trying to find you. Your phone is disconnected. Your apartment is empty. What do you want, Greg? I want to apologize. I want to explain. He ran a hand through his hair. I messed up. I know I did. But you have to understand. I was in a bad place. The gambling, it got out of control, and I thought I could fix it. I really did. By selling me. I wasn't going to let them actually take you. His voice rose, drawing stares from people entering the clinic. I was buying time. I thought if I could just get Santos off my back for a few weeks, I could figure something out. You gave him my picture, Greg, my schedule, my address. Because I was desperate. He grabbed my arm, and Carlos moved instantly, his hand on Greg's wrist in a grip that made Greg wince. Greg let go, stepping back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you have to help me. I stared at him. Help you? Santos is going to kill me. He says the deal is off because of Robles, but he still wants his money. 73,000 plus interest. I don't have it, Jess. I don't have anything. Tears were forming in his eyes now. You know people. You have connections now. Robles, he listens to you. You could ask him. Ask him what? To pay your debt? He has the money. It's nothing to him. You could just... I could just what, Greg? Become even more indebted to a man I barely know? Trade one cage for another? All to save you? It's not a cage if you like him. Greg's voice turned bitter. I've seen how you look at him. Like he's some kind of hero. But he's not, Jess. He's a criminal, a killer, and you're just his newest. Careful. Carlos's voice was low. Dangerous. But Greg kept going. This is your fault. If you hadn't texted the wrong number, if you just talked to me first instead of running to him. My fault? I stepped closer, anger burning away any guilt I'd felt. You cheated on me. You stole from me. You tried to sell me to human traffickers. And somehow this is my fault? You don't understand the pressure I was under. I understand perfectly. You're a coward who'd rather blame me than take responsibility for your own choices. Jesse, we're done. For real this time. I turned to leave. If you don't help me... I'm dead, Greg's voice broke. Is that what you want? Do you want my blood on your hands? I stopped. Looked back at him. At the man I'd wasted 2 years loving. You did this to yourself, Greg. I'm not responsible for saving you. A black SUV pulled up to the curb. Before I could process what was happening, Alonso stepped out, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He took in the scene with one sweep of his eyes, me, Carlos, and Greg standing too close together outside the clinic. His expression didn't change, but something deadly flickered in his gaze. Get in the car. Jesse. Alonso, I was just... Now. I'd never heard him use that tone before. I got in the car. Through the tinted window, I watched Alonso approach Greg. He didn't yell, didn't raise his hand. Just leaned in close and said something I couldn't hear. Greg's face went from red to white in seconds. Then Alonso walked to Greg's borrowed sedan, pulled something from his pocket, and dragged it across the paint in one long, deliberate scratch. Then another. Then he smashed the side mirror with his elbow, the glass shattering across the pavement. Greg didn't move, didn't protest. Just stood there, shaking. Alonso said something else still too quiet for me to hear, and Greg nodded frantically, backing away until he stumbled over the curb. When Alonso got in the car beside me, his knuckles were bleeding. What did you say to him? I asked. That if he comes near you again, I'll make sure Santos finds him first. He pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the blood away. And that the next time I destroy his property, it won't be his car. The driver pulled away from the curb, leaving Greg standing alone in the parking lot, surrounded by broken glass and the wreckage of his borrowed car. I should have felt vindicated, relieved. Instead, I just felt tired. He tried to make it my fault, I said quietly. They always do. Alonso's hand found mine. His fingers warmed despite the blood. Men like Greg never take responsibility. It's always someone else's mistake, someone else's burden. I looked at our joined hands, his scarred and stained, mine trembling slightly. What did you tell him, when you whispered? Alonso was quiet for a moment. Then, I told him that loving you was the only smart thing he'd ever done, and that losing you was exactly what he deserved. The ride back to the penthouse was silent, except for the hum of the engine and the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. Alonso still held my hand, his thumb tracing slow circles on my palm. The gesture should have been comforting, but it felt like a brand. A claim. When we reached the building, Carlos stayed in the lobby while Alonso guided me into the private elevator. The moment the doors closed, the air between us shifted, became heavier, charged with something I didn't want to name. You shouldn't have gone out there alone, Alonso said, his voice low. I wasn't alone. Carlos was with me. You confronted Greg. He confronted me. I pulled my hand away, suddenly needing the distance. And I handled it. You let him touch you. He grabbed my arm for 2 seconds before Carlos. 2 seconds is enough. Alonso turned to face me fully, and in the confined space of the elevator, he was overwhelming. 2 seconds for him to hurt you. 2 seconds for someone to take a photo. 2 seconds for Santos to realize you're vulnerable. I'm not vulnerable. His laugh was dark. You're the most vulnerable person I've ever met. You walk into clinics in bad neighborhoods. You give second chances to men who don't deserve them. You feel guilty for things that aren't your fault. He stepped closer. You're soft in a world that eats soft things alive. Then why do you care? My voice came out sharper than intended. If I'm so vulnerable, so stupid, why bother? The elevator reached the penthouse. The doors opened, but neither of us moved. Because I'm not a good man, Jesse. His eyes were dark, intense. And good men don't deserve you. Before I could respond, he walked out into the penthouse. I followed, my pulse racing. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've spent your whole life fixing broken things. He poured himself a drink, his movements controlled but tense. Broken patience, broken relationships, broken men who take and take until there's nothing left of you to give. He turned, glass in hand. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm already broken. I'm asking you to let me protect what's left of you. By keeping me prisoner? By keeping you alive. He downed the drink in one swallow. Do you have any idea what would have happened if I hadn't shown up at that clinic? If Greg had convinced you to get in his car? To go somewhere private to talk? Greg wouldn't. Greg would do anything to survive, including delivering you to Santos personally if it meant clearing his debt. Alonso set down the glass with more force than necessary. I destroyed his car because it was that or his face, and I chose the option that wouldn't give you nightmares. The adrenaline from the confrontation was still coursing through my veins, mixing with something else now, something that made my skin feel too tight. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He moved toward me, each step deliberate, because watching him touch you, listening to him blame you, seeing you look at him like some part of you still cared, it made me want to do things I promised myself I wouldn't do in front of you. What things? He stopped inches away, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. Violent things, permanent things, things that would prove every fear you have about me is justified. My breath caught. I should have been terrified, should have stepped back, put distance between us. But instead I found myself asking, what are you afraid I think about you? That I'm a monster. You are a monster. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, maybe, or satisfaction. Then why haven't you run? Because I'm 43 floors up with a bodyguard at every exit. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. I could have screamed at the clinic, could have told Maria to call the police, could have found a dozen ways to escape if I'd really wanted to. Liar. He reached out slowly, giving me time to move away. I didn't. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, the same gesture from before, but this time it felt different, hungrier. You haven't run because you're finally safe enough to stop running. Safe with a cartel boss who destroys cars and threatens to kill people. Safe with a man who would burn this entire city down before letting anyone hurt you. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. There's a difference. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The space between us had become electric, dangerous. This is insane. Yes. His other hand came up to cup my face, tilting my head back. Does that mean you want me to stop? I should have said yes. Should have pushed him away. Reminded him that he couldn't just claim people, that I wasn't his to keep. Instead, I grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him down to meet me. The kiss was immediate and consuming. Not gentle, not tentative. It was 2 days of tension and fear and adrenaline finally finding release. His hands moved to my waist, pulling me against him, and I could feel the hard lines of muscle beneath his shirt, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the barely controlled restraint in the way he held me. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Tell me to stop, he murmured against my lips. Tell me this isn't what you want. I don't know what I want. My hands were still fisted in his shirt. Everything about this is wrong. Everything about this is inevitable. His forehead rested against mine. From the moment you sent that text, this was always going to happen. You can't know that. I do know that. He kissed me again, softer this time but no less intense. Because I've never felt this before. This need to possess something so completely that the thought of anyone else touching it makes me violent. I'm not an it. No. His hand slid up my back, under the soft cashmere sweater that had replaced my yellow one. You're mine. I should have argued. Should have told him that people couldn't belong to other people. But his mouth was on my neck now, and coherent thought was becoming impossible. Your tattoos, I gasped. What do they mean? He pulled back just enough to look at me. You want to know now? I want to know everything. Something dark and pleased crossed his face. He released me just long enough to unbutton his shirt, letting it fall open. In the afternoon light streaming through the windows, the tattoos were even more intricate than I'd realized. Symbols and patterns covering his neck, spreading across his chest and shoulders, disappearing beneath his waistband. They're warnings, he said, watching my reaction. Each one represents a territory, a deal, a war won. People see these marks and they know exactly who I am, what I'm capable of. I traced one of the designs with my fingertip, a serpent eating its own tail. This one, Los Muertos, the first territory I took from them. His jaw tightened. 5 years ago. Santos has wanted it back ever since. You're covered in your enemy's symbols. I'm covered in reminders. He caught my hand, pressing it flat against his chest. Every mark is a lesson, a promise, a threat. And what do they promise? That I win. He kissed my palm. Always. Is that what I am to you? Another territory to win? No. He pulled me close again, his lips brushing my ear. You're the only thing I've ever wanted to keep just for myself. Not for power. Not for business. Just because the thought of you belonging to anyone else makes me forget every rule I've ever lived by. Alonso, I didn't come to save you that night, Jesse. His arms tightened around me. I came to take you. Save you. Keep you. It's the same thing to me. The moment you sent that text, you became mine. Greg just gave me an excuse to act on it. I should have been terrified by the admission, by the possessive certainty in his voice. But instead, I felt something else. Something that felt dangerously like relief. I'm not afraid of you, I whispered. You should be. He kissed me again, deeper this time. But I'm glad you're not. We stood there in the afternoon light, 43 floors above a city that was hunting me, wrapped in each other like we were the only solid things in a world that had become chaos. His hands in my hair, my fingers tracing the warnings inked across his skin. Two people who should never have met, who should never have collided, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. When we finally broke apart, his eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. Stay with me, he said. Not a command this time, a request. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. He touched my face again, impossibly gentle for someone so dangerous. You always have a choice. I looked into his eyes, killer's eyes, monster's eyes, and made mine. Then I'll stay. I heard the gunfire before I saw anything, sharp cracks echoing through concrete walls that seemed designed to trap sound. My wrists burned where zip ties cut into skin, my shoulders screaming from being yanked behind my back for hours. The warehouse smelled like rust and mildew and my own fear sweat. Greg stood 3 feet away, pacing like a caged animal, his face slick with perspiration. He'd been talking non-stop since Santos's men left us alone, justifying, explaining, begging me to understand that he'd had no choice, that this was the only way to clear his debt, that I'd be fine, that Santos had promised not to hurt me too badly. I'd stopped listening after the first 10 minutes. Another burst of gunfire, closer this time. Shouting in Spanish, then screaming, then silence. Greg's head snapped toward the door. They're coming back. Jesse, please, you have to tell them I cooperated. Tell them I brought you here willingly. They'll let me go if you just... Shut up, Greg. His mouth opened, closed. He looked genuinely hurt, like I'd wounded him by refusing to save him one more time. The warehouse door exploded inward. Not opened. Exploded. The metal shrieked as it tore from its hinges, crashing against the concrete floor with a sound that made my ears ring. Smoke billowed through the opening, and through it walked Alonso. He looked like death given human form. Blood spattered across his white shirt, not his blood. I knew instinctively. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing the tattoos that now looked less like warnings and more like promises kept. In his right hand, he held a gun, barrel still smoking. His left hand was empty, relaxed, like he'd just finished the easiest task in the world. 2 of his men followed behind him, weapons raised, scanning the room. But Alonso's eyes found mine immediately, cutting through the smoke and chaos like I was the only thing in the building that mattered. Jesse. Not a question, a confirmation. Like he'd been searching and had finally found what belonged to him. I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry. I managed a nod. His gaze shifted to Greg, and something happened to his expression. The cold calculation I'd grown used to disappeared, replaced by something primordial, something that made predators look domesticated. You! Alonso's voice was quiet, soft almost. That made it worse. You put your hands on her. Greg stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a piece of debris. I didn't hurt her, I swear. I just needed Santos to see I was serious about paying. You sold her twice. Alonso moved forward, each step measured. Once to Santos, once to survive. Tell me, Greg, how much is your life worth? Please, I'll do anything. You'll die. Alonso said it simply. Factually, the only question is how. He looked at one of his men and spoke rapid Spanish. The bodyguard moved to me, pulling out a knife to cut through the zip ties. My hands fell forward, and I gasped as blood rushed back into my fingers. The bodyguard helped me stand, my legs shaking after hours in one position. Alonso was still watching Greg, who had backed himself into a corner, literally and figuratively trapped. Alonso, wait, Greg's voice cracked. You can't just execute me. There are laws, procedures. Not in my city. Alonso raised his gun, aiming with the casual precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. No. Greg dropped to his knees. Jesse, please, tell him. Tell him I didn't mean it. We were together for 2 years. That has to count for something. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man I'd given 2 years of my life to. The man who'd taken my savings, my trust, my safety, and gambled it all away. Who'd handed me to criminals like I was currency. Who was now begging me to save him after everything he'd done. I felt nothing. Jesse, Alonso said, his voice cutting through my thoughts. He hadn't lowered the gun, but he wasn't pulling the trigger either. Come here. I walked to him on unsteady legs. When I reached him, he did something I didn't expect. He held out the gun. Handle first. He's your problem, Alonso said quietly. Fix it. I stared at the weapon. At the weight of it, the promise of it, at the solution it offered to every sleepless night, every betrayal, every moment. I'd spent wondering if I could have done something differently. I can't. The words came out barely above a whisper. Yes, you can. Alonso's hand closed around mine, guiding my fingers to the grip. The metal was still warm from his hand. He put you in a cage. He gave you away. He tried to erase you to save himself. His lips brushed my ear. Show him what happens when prey learns to bite back. My hand trembled as I raised the gun. Greg's eyes went wide. Jesse, no! You're not a killer. You save people. That's who you are. That's who I was, I heard myself say. The gun was heavy. My arm shook. Every instinct screamed at me to lower it, to walk away, to be the bigger person. But I thought about the yellow sweater I'd discarded. The scared girl who'd opened her door to a stranger because staying felt more dangerous than leaving. The woman who'd let herself be small because men like Greg needed her that way. I thought about Alonso's words. You're soft in a world that eats soft things alive. Don't make me something I'm not, I whispered. I'm not making you anything. Alonso's hand was steady on my back. I'm just giving you permission to be what you already are. Greg was crying now, snot running down his face. Please, please, Jesse. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. No, you don't. My voice was stronger now. Steadier. You love what I could give you. That's not the same thing. I squeezed the trigger. The recoil jolted through my arm. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Greg's body jerked backward, a bloom of red spreading across his chest. His eyes went wide with shock, like he'd never actually believed I'd do it. He crumpled to the concrete floor. I stood there, the gun still raised, staring at what I'd done. At the man I'd killed, at the blood pooling beneath him like spilled wine. I waited for horror, for regret, for the crushing weight of guilt. It didn't come. Alonso's hand covered mine, gently lowering the gun. Breathe, Jesse. I sucked in air, realizing I'd been holding my breath. My hands were shaking violently now, the adrenaline crash hitting all at once. Alonso took the gun from my fingers and handed it to one of his men. Then he turned me to face him, his hands cupping my face, forcing me to look at him instead of Greg's body. You did what needed to be done, he said firmly. No guilt, no regrets. He made his choices. You made yours. I killed him. The words felt surreal. I actually killed him. Yes. Alonso's thumbs brushed away tears I didn't realize were falling. And now he can't hurt you ever again. Can't sell you. Can't use you. Can't touch you. his forehead pressed against mine. You're free, Jesse. Completely free. Behind us, his men were already moving, cleaning up the scene with practiced efficiency, making Greg's body disappear, erasing evidence, turning murder into nothing. I should have been horrified by how easily they worked, how routine this was for them. Instead, I felt something click into place. Some final piece of myself that I'd been holding back, trying to preserve. I wasn't going back to my old life. Wasn't going back to the woman in the yellow sweater who saved everyone except herself. That woman was dead, and I'd pulled the trigger. The penthouse felt different when we returned. Same floor-to-ceiling windows, same expensive furniture, same view of the city sprawling beneath us like a kingdom waiting to be claimed. But I wasn't the same woman who'd been brought here a week ago, trembling and afraid. I walked straight to the windows and stared out at the lights. My reflection stared back, no longer wearing soft yellows and comfortable lies. The dress Alonso had chosen was black, sleek, expensive. It fit like armor. Behind me, I heard him pour 2 drinks, the clink of ice against crystal. The sound of his footsteps approaching. You haven't said anything since we left, he observed, holding out a glass. I took it but didn't drink. What's there to say? Most people have questions after their first kill. Guilt, fear, something. He studied my profile. You're too quiet. Maybe I don't feel guilty. Maybe you're in shock. I turned to face him. I'm not in shock, Alonso. I'm awake. For the first time in years, I'm actually awake. Something flickered in his expression. Approval, maybe, or satisfaction. He raised his glass in a mock toast. To waking up. I clinked my glass against his and took a long swallow. The liquor burned, grounding me, reminding me I was still here, still breathing, still standing. Santos called while we were in the car, Alonso said. He's accepted my terms. Los Muertos will pay reparations for the insult. Your name is officially off their radar. And Greg's debt died with him. Alonso set down his glass. As far as the world is concerned, Greg Hastings disappeared. No body, no crime, no loose ends. No loose ends. That's what I'd become in Greg's world. A loose end to be tied up, sold off, erased. But Alonso had turned me into something else entirely. Something that couldn't be erased. I need to tell you something, Alonso said, his tone shifting. More serious. And I need you to listen carefully. I set down my own glass. I'm listening. You have an out. He moved closer but didn't touch me. I can set you up with a new identity. New city, new life. Enough money that you'd never have to work again if you didn't want to. Clean break. Fresh start. You walk away from all of this. From me. From what happened. From what you did. And you never look back. My heart stuttered. You're letting me go? I'm giving you a choice. His jaw was tight. Like the words cost him something. The choice I didn't give you when I showed up at your door. Stay or leave. Your decision. I should have jumped at the offer. Should have grabbed it with both hands and run as far as the new identity would take me. Away from the violence, the danger, the man who'd turned my world inside out in less than 2 weeks. Instead, I asked, what happens if I stay? Then you stay, he said it simply. Not as a guest, not as someone I'm protecting. You stay as my equal, my partner, the woman who stands beside me when I rebuild what's mine. Your empire. Our empire. He finally reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek. I told you once that you save everyone except yourself. But you don't need saving anymore, Jesse. You need someone who sees exactly what you're capable of and doesn't flinch. And you don't flinch? I watched you pull that trigger. His thumb traced my lower lip. I've never been more certain of anything in my life than I am of you. I closed my eyes, letting his words sink in. The smart choice was obvious. Take the out. Disappear. Become someone new who'd never held a gun, never killed a man, never looked into the eyes of a monster and decided to stay. But that someone would be a lie. A comfortable fiction. Another yellow sweater I'd wear to pretend I was still the person I'd been before. I'm not leaving, I said, opening my eyes. I'm not running from this. From you. From what I did. His expression shifted, relief mixing with something darker. Something possessive. You understand what you're choosing? This life doesn't have an undo button. There's no going back to normal. Normal died the moment I sent that text to the wrong number. I stepped closer, eliminating the space between us. You said you came to take me, not save me. Well, you succeeded. I'm yours, Alonso. Completely yours. But you're mine too. That's the deal. His hands framed my face, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw vulnerability in his eyes. I don't deserve you. No one deserves anyone. I rose on my toes, my lips brushing his. But I choose you anyway. The kiss was different this time. Not desperate or adrenaline-fueled. It was a promise. A declaration. The sealing of something that couldn't be broken. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. You're going to be terrifying. Good. I smiled against his mouth. I'm tired of being afraid. He pulled me to the windows, wrapping his arms around me from behind, and we stood there looking out at the city. His city. Our city now. There's going to be fallout, he murmured. People will come for us, test us, try to find weaknesses. Then we show them we don't have any. His laugh was low, appreciative. You shot your ex-boyfriend without hesitation. Santos is already calling you La Enfermera, the nurse who kills with mercy. Is that supposed to scare me? It's supposed to warn you. His arms tightened around me. Reputations are built on moments like the one in that warehouse. You can't take it back. I don't want to take it back. I turned in his arms to face him. Greg tried to make me small, manageable, something he could use and discard. You did the opposite. You gave me a gun and told me to fix my own problem. Do you know how powerful that felt? I know exactly how powerful it felt. His eyes were dark, hungry. I watched it happen. Watched you transform from the woman in the yellow sweater into someone who could rule beside me. I don't want to rule anyone. Liar. He kissed me again. Slower this time. You've been ruling that ER for years. Saving lives, making decisions, holding people together when they're falling apart. The only difference now is you're not apologizing for it. He was right. I'd spent so long making myself smaller, softer, more palatable, being the good nurse, the understanding girlfriend, the woman who fixed everyone else's messes while ignoring her own needs. That woman was gone. And I didn't mourn her. Jessie finally stood up to her abuser, I said quietly, almost to myself. She chose freedom over fear. Yes, she did. Alonso's hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back. And now she's mine. And you're hers. Always. The city glittered beneath us, full of people who didn't know their world had shifted, didn't know that the scared girl in the yellow sweater had become something else. Someone else. Someone dangerous. Someone free. I thought about Greg's last moments. The shock in his eyes when I'd pulled the trigger. How he'd never believed I was capable of it until the bullet proved otherwise. He'd spent 2 years trying to convince me I needed him, that I was too soft, too kind, too weak to survive without someone to lean on. Alonso had spent 2 weeks showing me the opposite, that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. That kindness wasn't weakness, it was a choice. And choosing violence when necessary didn't make me a monster. It made me someone who couldn't be victimized again. I love you, I said, the words surprising us both. Alonso went very still. Say that again. I love you. It was easier the second time. True and terrifying and absolutely certain. I don't know when it happened. Maybe the first time you put your hand on my back. Maybe when you destroyed Greg's car. Maybe when you handed me that gun. But it happened. Jessie, you made me forget him, I continued, by making me remember myself. The version of me I'd buried under 2 years of trying to be what he needed. You saw her, the real me, and you didn't run. His kiss was answer enough. Claiming and grateful and full of promises I knew he'd keep. When we finally pulled apart, the city was still there, still waiting, still ours. Welcome home, mi reina, he whispered against my lips. My queen, I smiled, feeling the words settle into my bones like they'd always belonged there. The yellow sweater was gone. The scared girl was gone. Greg was gone. But I was still here, stronger, dangerous, free, and I was never going back. If Jessie's transformation inspired you, if you believe everyone deserves to break free from their abusers and reclaim their power, then smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what's coming next. Comment, I choose freedom, if you're ready to see more stories about women who refuse to be victims. Let me know in the comments, did Jessie make the right choice? Would you have pulled that trigger? And speaking of dangerous choices, I've got a brand new story dropping next week that's going to blow your mind. Picture this. A brilliant prosecutor who's never lost a case, a serial killer who's never been caught, and a crime scene that brings them face to face in the most unexpected way possible. She thinks she's hunting him. He knows he's been waiting for her. And when they finally meet, let's just say the line between justice and obsession has never been thinner. Subscribe now so you don't miss the prosecutor's obsession. Coming next. Trust me, if you thought Alonso was dangerous, wait until you meet Antonio Perez. I'll see you in the next story, lovers. Stay dangerous, stay free, and remember, sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call.